I found my husband's wedding ring in another woman's purse, and when I confronted him, he smiled and said, "Finally, you know." That smile haunted me for weeks, not because it was cruel, but because it was relieved, like he'd been waiting for me to discover his secret, like he wanted me to set him free. And God help me, I think that's exactly what I did. My name is Sarah Mitchell, and until 6 months ago, I thought I had everything figured out. I lived in a beautiful colonial house in Greenwich, Connecticut, had been married to David for 12 years, and worked as a senior editor at a publishing house in Manhattan. Our life looked perfect from the outside. Dinner parties with friends, summer weekends in the Hamptons, anniversary trips to Europe. But perfection, I've learned, is just another word for surface, and beneath ours, everything was rotting. It started on a Tuesday evening in March. David had been working late more often, sometimes not coming home until after midnight. He said his law firm was handling a massive corporate merger, that the partners were demanding everything from everyone. I believed him because I wanted to, because doubting him meant doubting 12 years of my life, and I wasn't ready for that. But that Tuesday, he forgot his gym bag when he rushed out for what he called an emergency meeting. When I went to put it in the laundry room, his phone fell out, already unlocked, and I saw the messages. They weren't explicit, not in the way you might think, but they were intimate in a way that cut deeper than any graphic description could. Messages to someone named Rachel. "I can't stop thinking about Sunday. You make me feel alive again. She doesn't understand me the way you do." All the cliches I thought only existed in bad movies. I sat on our bedroom floor, his phone in my shaking hands, and felt my entire reality crack down the middle. Before you judge me for what comes next, I need you to understand something about betrayal. It doesn't just break your heart, it erases your past. Every memory becomes suspect. Every "I love you" might have been a lie. Every moment of intimacy might have been performed. I didn't just lose my future that night, I lost my history too. And if you're listening to this thinking you know exactly what you'd do in my situation, I want you to do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button right now, because this story is going to challenge everything you think you know about love, loyalty, and the choices we make when everything falls apart. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. I didn't confront David immediately. Instead, I did something I'm not proud of. I became a spy in my own marriage. I checked his phone whenever I could, followed the digital trail of his affair like a detective obsessed with a case. Rachel worked at his firm, was 10 years younger than me, had no children, no roots, no complications. She was everything I used to be before life got heavy. I found photos of them at restaurants I'd suggested for our anniversaries, at the little bookshop in Brooklyn where David had proposed to me. He wasn't just replacing me. He was rewriting our story with her as the protagonist. The rational part of me knew I should leave, file for divorce, reclaim my dignity, but the irrational part, the part that had built a life around this man, kept whispering, "Maybe you can fix this. Maybe you just need to try harder. Maybe you're overreacting." Isn't it funny how we gaslight ourselves harder than anyone else ever could? 2 weeks after I discovered the affair, I went to a work event at a gallery in Soho. I wasn't planning to stay long. I was going through the motions of normal life while dying inside. That's where I met Claire. She was standing in front of an abstract painting that looked like chaos had been given permission to exist, and she turned to me and said, "It's called The Weight of Secrets." Ironic that something so honest has such a heavy name, isn't it? I must have looked terrible because she immediately asked if I was okay. And before I could stop myself, I was crying in front of a complete stranger at a professional event. Claire didn't flinch. She took my arm, guided me outside, sat with me on the steps of the gallery, and just listened. I told her everything. David, Rachel, the messages, the erasure of my past, the paralysis of not knowing what to do. And when I finished, she said something that changed everything. "You're not alone." Those 3 words, so simple, so common, hit me like a revelation. I had been alone, trapped in my marriage, isolated by my shame and confusion. Claire became my lifeline. We started meeting for coffee, then lunch, then long walks through Central Park where I could talk about my pain without judgment. She had her own story of betrayal, her own scars from a marriage that had imploded spectacularly 5 years earlier. She understood the complexity, the gray areas, the way you can love someone and hate them simultaneously. But here's where it gets complicated, and if you're not already subscribed to this channel, you really need to be. Because this is where the story takes a turn nobody sees coming. Claire wasn't just a friend offering support. She had an agenda, though I didn't realize it at first. She encouraged me to investigate David's affair more thoroughly, to gather evidence, to build a case. She said I deserved to know everything before making any decisions. It seemed reasonable, even empowering. So I followed her advice. I hired a private investigator, accessed David's credit card statements, tracked his movements. And what I discovered was so much worse than I'd imagined. David and Rachel had been involved for over 2 years, not the few months I'd assumed. They had traveled together, told people they were engaged, built an entire parallel life. David was living a double existence so completely that I wondered if I had ever known him at all. But here's the thing that destroyed me most. According to the investigator, Rachel was pregnant. The night I learned about the pregnancy, I sat in my car outside our house for 3 hours, unable to go inside, unable to drive away. David and I had tried for years to have children. We'd done IVF, suffered through miscarriages, finally accepted that it might not happen for us. And now he was having a baby with someone else, someone who'd given him what I couldn't. The cruelty of it was suffocating. Claire found me that night. I had texted her in my desperation, and she drove across town at midnight to sit with me in that car. She held me while I sobbed, whispered comforting things, told me I was strong enough to survive this. And then she said something that should have been a warning. David doesn't deserve you. He never did. But I see you, Sarah. I see everything you are. The way she said it, the intensity in her eyes, made something shift between us. It wasn't romantic, not exactly, but it was intimate in a way that felt both dangerous and necessary. She became my constant, the only person I could trust, the only relationship that felt real. And slowly, so slowly I didn't notice it happening, she replaced David in my life. I stopped going home early, stopped trying to fix my marriage, stopped caring what David did with Rachel. My world became smaller and more focused. Claire and me against everything else. David noticed the change. He started asking questions, trying to engage me in conversations about our relationship. Ironically, now that I was pulling away, he seemed to want me back. Or maybe he just wanted to control the narrative of our ending. One night, about 6 weeks after I'd met Claire, he confronted me in the kitchen. "I know you know about Rachel," he said, and there it was, that relieved smile I mentioned at the beginning. "I've been wanting to tell you for so long, but I was scared. I'm in love with her, Sarah. I want a divorce." I should have felt devastated, but all I felt was numb. "She's pregnant," I said, watching his face carefully. His smile faltered. "How did you—" "Does it matter? You're going to be a father. Congratulations." The conversation that followed was surprisingly civil. We discussed lawyers, division of assets, timelines. It was like negotiating a business deal, not ending a marriage. When he left the room, I called Claire immediately, told her everything. She said she'd come over, that we needed to talk. Something in her voice made my stomach clench. If you're watching this and thinking you know where this is going, I promise you don't. Subscribe now because this next part is going to blow your mind. Claire arrived an hour later with a bottle of wine and an expression I couldn't read. We sat in my living room, the house David and I had bought together, filled with furniture we'd chosen, surrounded by the ghost of our life. She poured us both generous glasses and said, "I need to tell you something, and you're going to hate me, but I need you to hear me out." My heart started racing. "What is it?" "Rachel is my sister." The words hung in the air like smoke, choking me. "What?" "My younger sister. The one I told you about. The one who always gets everything she wants, who destroyed my marriage by sleeping with my ex-husband. Rachel is that sister." I couldn't process what she was saying. "You knew? This entire time, you knew she was the woman David was having an affair with?" "I didn't know at first," Claire said quickly. "When we met at the gallery, when you told me about David's affair, you didn't mention her name, But the next time we met, you said Rachel, and I had a feeling. So I looked into it, confirmed it, and yes, I've known for over a month. I stood up, backing away from her like she was dangerous. Why didn't you tell me? Because I wanted to help you. I wanted you to be strong enough to leave him on your terms, not just react out of pain. Rachel has always taken everything from me, Sarah. My husband, my confidence, my sense of self-worth. I wasn't going to let her take you too. I'm not a possession. I know that, Claire said, standing up, moving toward me. But you've become important to me, more important than I expected. This whole situation, it brought us together for a reason. Can't you see that? I felt like I was drowning. Everything I thought I knew, every relationship I'd trusted was built on lies and manipulation. You used me. You encouraged me to investigate David, to gather evidence, not for my benefit, but for yours. This is about revenge against your sister. It's about justice, Claire corrected. Rachel destroys lives without consequence. She took your husband, Sarah. She took my husband. She needs to face repercussions. And what did you think would happen? That I'd, help you destroy her? Claire's expression hardened. I thought you'd want to. She's carrying your husband's child, living the life that should have been yours. Don't you want her to pay for that? The scary thing was, part of me did. Part of me wanted Rachel to hurt the way I was hurting, wanted David to regret everything, wanted to burn their perfect little future to the ground. But a bigger part of me recognized that Claire's obsession was toxic, that she had manipulated me from the beginning, that her friendship was just another layer of betrayal. I think you should leave, I said quietly. Sarah, please just go. She left, but not before saying one more thing. You're going to regret this. You're going to be alone, and you're going to realize I was the only person who truly saw you. Make sure you're subscribed, because what I discovered next changed everything I thought I knew about this entire situation, and it's going to make you question who the real victim is in this story. After Claire left, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying our conversations, looking for signs I'd missed, trying to understand what was real and what was manipulation. At 3 a.m, I did something impulsive. I reached out to Rachel. I found her Instagram profile easily enough. David had been sloppy in his affair, never really trying to hide it from anyone but me. Rachel's profile was public, full of carefully curated photos of her life. Brunch with friends, yoga poses on beaches, David's arm around her shoulder at a wedding. She looked happy, oblivious to the chaos she'd caused. I sent her a direct message. We need to talk. It's about Claire. She responded within minutes, even at that ungodly hour. Who is this? Sarah Mitchell, David's wife. There was a long pause, then, I'll meet you, tomorrow at noon, Central Park, Cherry Hill Fountain. I spent the next morning questioning my sanity. What was I doing, meeting with the woman who had stolen my husband? But something Claire had said kept echoing in my mind. Rachel had destroyed Claire's marriage too. There was a pattern here, a story I didn't fully understand, and I needed to know the truth before I made any decisions about my own life. Rachel was already at the fountain when I arrived, sitting on a bench, her pregnant belly just barely visible under her loose dress. She was beautiful in that effortless way some women are, and I hated her instantly. But when she looked up and our eyes met, I saw something unexpected. Fear. Thank you for meeting me, I said, sitting down but maintaining distance. I'm sorry, she said immediately. I know that's not enough. I know it doesn't fix anything, but I am genuinely sorry. I never intended to fall in love with your husband. But you did anyway. Yes. We sat in silence for a moment, watching tourists take photos, children chase pigeons, life continuing normally while ours imploded. Then I said, Tell me about Claire. Rachel's face went pale. She contacted you, didn't she? What did she tell you? That you're sisters, that you destroyed her marriage, that you have a pattern of taking things that don't belong to you. Rachel laughed, but it was bitter. Of course that's her version. Did she tell you that her husband came on to me at their anniversary party? That I rejected him repeatedly? That I told Claire what he was doing and she didn't believe me? Did she tell you that when he wouldn't stop? When he cornered me at their house and tried to force himself on me, I defended myself and ran, and Claire found us and assumed I'd initiated it? I felt my stomach drop. That's not what she said. Claire rewrites history to fit her narrative, Rachel said. She's been obsessed with me my entire life, convinced that I'm trying to steal her happiness. When her marriage fell apart because her husband was a predator, she blamed me instead of him. She's been following me ever since, trying to sabotage my relationships, my career, my life. And now she's found you, hasn't she? She's turned you against me, made you think I'm the villain. You are sleeping with my husband. Yes, Rachel admitted, and that's wrong. I know it is. But David and I didn't start this affair to hurt you. We fell in love, genuinely fell in love. He told me his marriage was over long before anything physical happened between us. He said you two were staying together out of obligation, not love. Hearing this from her felt different than discovering it through texts and investigation. It felt more real, more painful, but also somehow more honest. Did Claire know about you and David before we met? Rachel hesitated. I think so. About 2 months before you and Claire became friends, she showed up at my apartment drunk, screaming about how I was destroying another life, how I always take what isn't mine. I had no idea what she was talking about until she mentioned David's name. That's when I realized she'd been following me, watching me, building another case against me in her mind. If you're still watching, hit that subscribe button right now because this story is about to take one more twist that nobody's going to see coming, and you'll want to be notified when I share the final part. I spent the rest of that day walking aimlessly through Manhattan, trying to process everything. Both Claire and Rachel had lied to me, or at least told me versions of the truth filtered through their own pain and resentment. David had betrayed me, but maybe our marriage had been dying long before Rachel entered the picture. I had been so focused on being the victim, on my pain and my loss, that I hadn't stopped to ask the harder questions. Had I been happy? Had I been present in my own marriage? Had I noticed when David started slipping away? Or had I been too comfortable with our perfect surface to look underneath? That night, I did something radical. I told David everything. I told him about Claire being Rachel's sister, about the manipulation, about the competing narratives. And I asked him point blank, "Did you ever love me? Or was I just convenient?" He took a long time to answer, and I appreciated that. "I loved you," he finally said. "I loved you deeply when we met, and I loved you for many years after. But somewhere along the way, we stopped being partners and started being roommates. We stopped fighting, but we also stopped connecting. And yes, maybe I should have told you. Should have tried harder to fix it, but I was scared. Scared of your disappointment. Scared of failing. Scared of being alone. So you found someone who made you feel less scared." "Yes. And I know that makes me a coward, and I'm sorry. But Sarah, you deserve someone who sees you, who really sees you, not just the version of you that fits into their life plan. I wasn't that person for you anymore. Maybe I never was." It was the most honest conversation we'd had in years, maybe in our entire marriage. And in that honesty, I found something unexpected. Closure. Not forgiveness, not reconciliation, but understanding. Our marriage had ended long before Rachel, before the affair, before any of this chaos. We'd just been too afraid to admit it. But that left me with a bigger problem. What about Claire? I went to her apartment the next day, unannounced. She opened the door looking exhausted, like she hadn't slept since our fight. "Sarah," she said, and her voice was so vulnerable, so desperate that I almost forgave her immediately. Almost. "I met with Rachel," I said. Claire's face hardened. "She lied to you. Whatever she said, stop. Just stop." I pushed past her into the apartment. "I don't know what the truth is about what happened with your ex-husband, and honestly, it doesn't matter. What matters is that you used me, Claire. You saw my pain, and you weaponized it for your own vendetta." That's not fair, Claire protested. I genuinely care about you, Sarah. My feelings for you, they're real. Are they? Or am I just another way to hurt your sister? Both, she admitted. And that honesty surprised me. Both can be true. Yes. When I realized who Rachel was involved with, when I saw an opportunity to finally make her face consequences, I took it. But that doesn't mean my feelings for you aren't real. You're the first person in 5 years who made me feel less alone, who understood what betrayal does to your soul. What we have? It's real, Sarah. It's messy and complicated and built on some questionable foundations, but it's real. I wanted to hate her. I wanted to walk away and never look back. But the truth was, Claire had seen me at my lowest and hadn't flinched. She had held me through my worst moments, even if her motives were mixed. And wasn't that true of most relationships? Nobody's entirely selfless. We all have our agendas. Our needs, our wounds we're trying to heal. I can't trust you, I said finally. I know. And I don't know if I can forgive you. I know that too. But I also don't know if I can walk away from you. Claire moved closer, and I saw tears in her eyes. Then don't. Stay. Figure it out with me. We're both broken, Sarah. Maybe we can't fix each other, but maybe we can keep each other company while we heal. So here I am, months later, recording this story because I still don't know what the right choice is. David and Rachel are having their baby next month. David and I signed divorce papers 3 weeks ago. It was surprisingly painless, like ending a business partnership rather than a marriage. Claire and I are something. Not quite friends, not quite more, existing in this liminal space where trust is a daily negotiation and forgiveness feels both impossible and inevitable. My mother calls me every week asking when I'm going to move on, find someone new, rebuild my life. My friends have split into camps, those who think I should cut everyone off and start fresh, and those who think I'm being too hard on people who made mistakes. But none of them understand what it's like to have your entire reality rewritten, to discover that every relationship in your life was built on shifting sand. The thing about betrayal is that it doesn't just change your past, it changes how you see the future. I used to believe in clear lines between right and wrong, victim and villain, love and manipulation. Now I understand that most of life exists in the gray areas, that people can hurt you and save you simultaneously, that sometimes the person who breaks you is also the only person who understands how all your pieces fit together. So I'm going to ask you something, and I really want you to answer in the comments below. What would you do in my place? Would you walk away from Claire knowing she manipulated you but also truly saw you? Would you forgive David and Rachel, understanding that sometimes love is messy and marriages end not with dramatic betrayals, but with quiet dissolutions? Would you trust Rachel's version of events, or Claire's, or would you recognize that the truth probably lives somewhere between their competing narratives? And here's the question that keeps me up at night. Is it possible to build something real from broken pieces? Or are we all just fooling ourselves, creating new versions of the same patterns, pretending that this time will be different? Before you answer, make sure you're subscribed to this channel because I'm not done telling this story. There's more coming, things I haven't shared yet, decisions I still have to make. The weight of secrets, remember? That painting Claire and I looked at on the night we met? I finally understand what it meant. Secrets aren't just things we hide. They're the gravity that holds us to certain people, certain choices, certain versions of ourselves. I bought that painting last week. It hangs in my new apartment, smaller and less perfect than the house I shared with David, but mine in a way nothing else has been in years. Claire helped me hang it, and when we stepped back to look at it, she whispered, "You're not alone." And something warm slipped into the silence I'd been carrying. Not love, not exactly. Not trust, not yet. But possibility. The chance that maybe, just maybe, we can build something true from all these lies. Or maybe I'm just fooling myself again. What do you think? Am I making the biggest mistake of my life? Or am I finally learning how to live in the messy reality of human relationships? Comment below. Subscribe for the next part of this story. And remember, life is rarely as simple as we want it to be. And sometimes the people who hurt us are also the people who save us. Sometimes we're all villains in someone's story and heroes in someone else's. I still don't know how this ends, but I'm finally okay with not knowing. And maybe that's the real story here. Not about betrayal or forgiveness or revenge, but about learning to live with uncertainty, with complexity, with the terrifying and beautiful truth that we're all just doing our best with incomplete information and broken hearts. So, what would you do in my place? Really think about it. Because I have a feeling many of you are facing similar choices right now, caught between who you were and who you might become, between the safety of what you know and the terror of the unknown. Subscribe to this channel and let's figure it out together. Because if I've learned anything from this chaos, it's that none of us are ever really alone, even when we're carrying secrets that feel too heavy to share. The story continues, but you'll have to come back to find out how it ends. If it ends. Maybe some stories don't have endings, just pauses between breaths, moments of rest before the next complicated chapter begins. Hit that subscribe button, join me in this mess, and tell me, what would you do?